Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neal Stimler. I'm an Associate Digital Asset Specialist at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City and a Google Glass Explorer. Today I'm going to be trying to do our presentation live through Google Glass using a presentation tool called Your Show on Glass, which is developed by Superhuman Labs. So what you're actually seeing on the screen right now is a projection of what I'm seeing on the prism of Google Glass in real time. The delay is a little bit because it's wirelessly connected, so hopefully it will catch up with my slides. First, I'm going to provide to you an introduction of Google Glass and how it works. Let's see. Will that catch up? There we go. Okay. So what is Google Glass? Google Glass is a wearable mobile device that brings our experience of the smartphone or tablet into dialogue with the human body's personal and audiovisual environment. Glass is a heads-up display for real life, as said by Marques Brownlee in his video, Top 5 Wearable Tech for early 2014. There we go. It's coming on. Super. So to move the slides, like in PowerPoint, instead of hitting the arrow key, I just swipe the side of the touchpad here. And as I said before, there's a little bit of a delay because it's talking back to the device, which is farther away from me. Typically in New York, when I have my tablet and my phone connected to me, it's a pretty seamless experience. So it catches up. Oh, great, now here we are. So how does Google Glass work? It's tethered to a tablet or smartphone with an application called My Glass, which is now available for both iOS and Android. Google Glass receives and sends notifications back to the smartphone or tablet in combination with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So right now, for example, I'm connected to a phone, which is using Wi-Fi, which is connected to my tablet, which is connected to Glass. It's operated, as I said before, with a combination of voice and touch commands. So how does one get Google Glass? This is probably a question for many of you. I came to receive Google Glass through the program called If I Had Glass, which was a Twitter and Google Plus campaign last year that people had to apply for. So using the hashtag If I Had Glass, folks gave their ideas for how they might use Glass, and then Google selected them to be part of what's called the Google Glass Explorer program. So who are Google Glass Explorers? Glass Explorers are the beta testers for Google Glass, and they develop new applications and experiment with use cases for the device. They have different interests, professions, and skills. Initially, with the initial release of Glass, it was a relatively small number, and now I believe there's around 26,000 Google Glass Explorers. Let's see, we're behind a little bit on my slides again. There we go. So now I'll just briefly mention Google Glass at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, what we've done so far. So at the museum, we're experimenting with internal incubation. What I mean by that is we're going department to department, working group to working group, and asking curators and conservators and educators for their feedback and experimentation as to what applications they think might be useful for Google Glass. We're also working with artists and developers to test out the study of the collections or connect with new audiences and programs and foster new creativity in the arts with Glass as part of our museum mission. And that's especially done with my colleague, Don Undine, who is the head of the Met Media Lab, which does a lot of experimentation with code, with 3D printing, with hackathons. So we're trying to bridge this engagement with community practice and the new technology of Google Glass. And then throughout the United States and now in Florence, happy to say, I've been doing presentations and demonstrations for colleagues at other museums. So you're probably asking, what can I do with Google Glass? What does it actually do? I'm sure you've seen videos online or have read posts on blogs. So for me, it boils down to three kind of key concepts, and that's discover, dialogue, and document. So glass helps us discover. We learn new information faster than ever before, thereby building personal knowledge and enhancing our professional skills. How does this apply? So for example, when I'm at the museum working at my desk, I have multiple screens open for my workstation, but I'm also receiving constant notifications from colleagues like Nancy Proctor and all of you good folks here at Museums and the Web. So I'm constantly getting information and notifications while I'm working, so I'm able to find out if the Tate launches a new blog, if there's a new app that I should follow, and it comes right into my field of vision. Dialogue. One of the functions that I can use on Glass is social media. So I frequently retweet and respond to my colleagues in real time using Google Glass. And then document. I can take notes with Evernote. I can capture images and video and save those for later or share them immediately. So it's a way of capturing my world for right now or later on. So now I want to highlight for you a few of the applications that break down these categories of discover, dialogue, and document. The first application here is called Color Snap. It's developed by the Sherwin-Williams Paint Company, which is, I think, based in Cleveland, Ohio. And it's also available for iPhones and Android phones. You can take a picture with Color Snap and send it to the application, and it will return back to you a basic color profile of what is contained in that image. And some of the colors that are listed there actually contain the names of famous artists, like Anthony Van Dyck, which is interesting. I also want to highlight Field Trip, which is the most important app for Google Glass, in my view, for museums and cultural heritage. Field Trip is a company that's owned by Google. You can download the app for iOS and Android, and there's a section of Field Trip which allows you to connect to content related to museums, cultural heritage, and historic sites. The Field Trip application uses content provided by third parties who write content specifically for the app or from institutions that partner with Field Trip. So an example of this is when I enter the Metropolitan Museum of Art and I'm about to walk into an exhibition. If there has been content written for Field Trip, I will receive an automatic notification based on my location within the museum that will give me a brief description of the exhibition, and I can actually listen to it with the monobud here and hear an introduction to the exhibition. So it's an instantaneous connection to the exhibition right before I walk in. Google search is also very useful. So for example, when I'm in the museum, if I'm curious about something, if I see a painting, a work of art, I can just do a simple Google search by voice command. And for international visitors, I think WordLens will have a very important implication. WordLens is an application that allows me to use the camera of Google Glass. And when I point the camera at signage or visitor information, it will translate that text into my language and display that to me through Google Glass. So dialogue for me is often about social media and social communications. So Google Glass works right now with Facebook, Google Hangouts, Google Now, If This Then That, which is abbreviated as IFTT, Twitter, Tumblr, and Gmail. Those are the key dialogue tools that I use. Google Now is especially important for the whole experience of Glass. I don't know if you're all familiar with Google Now. If you log into a Google account and you have your email and information that you store along with your search behavior, Google will give you feedback about that and provide information. So for example, when I'm traveling to my commute to and from the office each day, Google Now tells me it's going to take me 21 minutes to get from my apartment to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, just based on my activity and the way that I use the devices. It'll also give me recommendations on things that I'm searching. For example, if I'm searching for a film at the Museum of Modern Art, Glass will display for me a few minutes later the times of upcoming films that are being shown there. And this actually goes back to Susan Chun's point yesterday that she was talking about in her presentation about Google Now as being a valuable tool for museums as well. And Twitter is a really great feature of Google Glass. So every day I get to see the faces of my dear friends and colleagues through Google Glass and respond and interact to their messages. It's also a really key tool for business as well with email. So let's see here. And now we'll talk about document as soon as it comes. There we go. Almost there. Excellent. And so documentation. So I don't know if you are all users of Evernote, which is a popular web application and also a mobile application. So with Evernote, you can send a message to Glass, and it will take a text message and insert it into your Evernote account. So when you log into your app or log in with a web browser, that message will appear there. You can also send media messages as well. Another app for documenting is called Poster Boy. It's a geolocation photo sharing application. So, for example, today, maybe when I'm done with my speech, I'll take a picture of all of you from the stage, and anybody else that wears Google Glass in this room will see that image when they enter the space. So it creates a location connection between the images and content you create. The video example of that is Video Voyager. It works on the same principle. If I was to capture a video of the space right now, if another Google Glass Explorer or wearer came into the space, they would have the option of playing back that video. You can also share video content to YouTube directly from Glass, or if you want to capture video, you can store it in your Google account and then deploy it later to YouTube if you desire. So this is a brief introduction to Google Glass, and now I'm going to try to focus for you on the specifics of museums in Google Glass. And also, once the image appears, I wanted to highlight the image that I tweeted this morning called My Lady of the Glass by Chris Kitchen, who's an artist and a Google Glass Explorer and a member of the Explorer community who's been posting very fun, interesting images that he's made with Google Glass. Should show up in a minute. There we are. So it's a little hard to read on the screen, but what this image is it is an image comprised of the faces of Google Glass Explorers that makes the image of the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, and she happens to be wearing Google Glass, which I think is very appropriate. So at museums and the web, we're probably asking, should museums engage with Google Glass? Is this something that really matters to us? Is this something that will have resonance and impact? And I think the answer is yes. I think Google Glass will have a tremendous impact on museums, just as smartphones and tablets did previously. If we think about museums' response to technology sometimes, the public brought their phones and tablets with them into museums, and we reacted to it. I think now with Google Glass, we have an opportunity to engage the technology as it's coming into being and anticipate those needs for visitors in the museum. Still coming. There we go. Excellent. Great. So as a wearable technology, Glass makes possible immersive interactions with museums on-site and online. I can tell you from some of the basic tests that I've done with my colleagues in the museum, the excitement and joy that people connect with when they experience Google Glass. I've done tests with Nick Honeyset, the head administration at the J. Paul Getty Museum, and a colleague of mine in France, Stéphane Vial. And from Nîmes and from LA, I'm walking through the museum and they're seeing the galleries in real time, and we're quite far apart. And I also think with the museum context that people may come to better understand our present and imagine our future when we're using Google Glass to engage museum collections and programs, which I think is one of the things that is valuable to us as museum professionals. So Google Glass is a mobile wearable device. And so I think we have to think about the mobileness of Google Glass and what that means as well. And so my recommendation is that Google Glass be treated as primarily a BYOD device, or bring your own device into the museum context. I don't necessarily see it as a device that will be provided as an audio tool replacement. Although there might be certain applications for that, special needs and considerations. The real goal, I think, for museums interacting with Google Glass is to have open access, open available content for other third-party vendors who are making mobile applications that people already use with a device to build on and create new information for. Field Trip is an example of that. And now I want to break down for you some specific museum use cases for Google Glass. And they're focusing on conservation, digital media, education, and scholarship. So conservation. Color Snap is the app that I mentioned before, which to me makes a connection to color analysis. It's a very simple application, but there could be other further developments along the line that would be more useful. And also with documentation, you can use Evernote. So a conservator who is oftentimes working with their hands, working on a painting, working on a sculpture or a vase, can use voice commands and simple touch to take notes, pictures, and videos that could be used to build a condition report, which is a valuable part of the stewardship of a museum object. In digital media departments and scenarios, I think there are a wide area of use cases. Collection digitization. So I think with collection digitization, There's an often expectation of a high quality of capture. We go in various stages of photography through rigorous setups, but for the example of quick and easy capture of a collections technician person who needed to upload an image to a database for just the functional project of an exhibition or a loan, a simple tap of a picture and the JPEG upload to the database might satisfy for the time being, and then if that object needs to be photographed again for a longer capture, it could be done. Digital strategy. One of the great advantages of glass is that I'm constantly informed of what's going on in the world. And so for digital media professionals, having that information right in front of you, I think, is a key factor. Media production. Glass also takes video. I think we can imagine new types of video experiences with Google Glass for museums. Multimedia tours, as I mentioned before, is an option of using Google Glass to present multimedia tours. Certainly one of the compelling reasons for that is the use of both video and text and images. And it's right in front of the eye of the viewer and right in the ear of the viewer. Online publication. I think glass can also be a new space for experimenting with publication as we think about new forms of scholarly practice and what publications are and what they mean now. So publications have shifted to tablets and to mobile devices. Wearables are the next category of that exploration. And then, of course, social media. Now, with education, we have other use cases as well here. I think there's actually a lot of possibility for education. One is art making. Recently, I did a Google Glass post with a painter named Gretchen Andrew in London, and we collaborated together on this post. Gretchen came to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She tweeted me. I met her in the galleries, and after her exploration of the museum, she went back to her studio in London and created a painting based off of work in our collection at the Met. She shared her video of making that painting through Google Glass with us at the Met, and we wrote a collaborative blog post about it, which you can actually find as a resource at the end of these slides. But the excitement that she had connecting with the museum experience, connecting with our content, was thrilling for me and also many others in our institution. So I think Google Glass is absolutely a tool for artists to make new art. Accessibility, which is an important issue as well. I participated earlier last year in the Tech Lead Conference in Washington, D.C., providing people there a chance to test Google Glass for different concerns with the deaf of hard of hearing and mobility issues. I think there's still some growth and opportunity there to learn what's next for that. Distance learning, which is already a tradition in many institutions that do distance learning with the museum is in New York and students in Alaska are interested. So connecting audiences across long distances. One of the important things that I also want to emphasize with Google Glass is free choice learning. And what we mean by free choice learning is that rather than taking a structured tour or even a structured mobile tour, with Google Glass, because I have the internet right in front of me, I can direct my own learning with my own discovery, my own interests. So that I think is a very empowering thing for a free public experience in museums. Lectures is another way of using Google Glass. Performances, teacher training, and workshops. I also think Google Glass has implications for scholarship, but it's a scholarship that is dramatically changing in response to technology, and it's probably a new way of thinking about scholarship. One is, as I said before, digital publication. Another is image recognition. So there's several people that I know that are working on applications to recognize images of paintings or objects in museums' collections using Google Glass. Many museums have partnered with Google in the past using Google Goggles, which is an application that exists presently that you can use to take an image of a work of art. And if the museum is partnered with Google on that, it'll bring you to the museum's website for information. And there's no QR code, it's just the image itself is the conduit to information. Research. So if you've ever had a moment when you're working on a project, writing an article, working a book, and you think to yourself, I wish I remembered the name of that book. If I could only ask someone, if I could only find that information out, you can carry out a simple Google search and begin your research right there. Pictures. Many scholars, when they travel or when they're doing research, take pictures of their research in progress. Scholarly discourse. I view Twitter as a scholarly discourse. That's one of the ways that I use the tool to communicate with my colleagues and have discussions about matters of interest and things we care about. And capturing video as well. So this can be a fundamental tool for research for curators and educators and researchers. And then we'll talk about a few conclusions of Google Glass's implication for museums as soon as it comes up. I think all of you are tweeting because I'm getting notifications in my ear. Almost there. Great. So this is a picture that I took for Museum Selfie Day using my Android phone, and this is behind me is the American wing at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is sort of my favorite spaces in the museum. It also has great connectivity. If you're ever there visiting, need a Wi-Fi place to be, American wing. So we know what it does. Why would it inspire us? Why is Google Glass an inspiration? What impact does it have for us? So for me, I think about curiosity, that desire to investigate new humanistic understandings of art and life. Connection, an enhanced recognition of the links between applications, culture, information, and social relationships. And creation, the ability to make and contribute to the flourishing of the arts and industry. There we are. And now just to bring a summation to the what, the use cases, and the why of Google Glass. The what is we can discover, dialogue, and document what we can do with Google Glass. Museum use cases for Google Glass. Impact conservation, education, digital media, and scholarship. And curiosity, connection, and creation are why we can be inspired by Google Glass. And for me, having spent since last summer with the technology on a daily basis, and thinking about these questions as I prepared to speak to you today, I feel that Google Glass can connect us to the revelatory experiences and people that define meaning in our lives, like art and museums. Thank you. At the end of the talk here, I think it may have already happened on Twitter now. My slides are being released today online, so you can access them. And also at the end of the slide deck, I have some resources that are available for you, links that you can solve for further information. So the first slide in the resources section is the pages of links to information about Google Glass from Google, including the Glass Home and their social media presences, along with the Google Glass Explorer community. And a few other resources that were done by people external to Google, including Andrzej Karpathy, who did a data mine of all of the If I Had Glass winners, so you can see who that initial group was, and also resources about the new applications that are being developed for Google Glass. That should come in a second. There we are. And then the last slide is the list of publications that I've contributed to in preparation for this conference and over the last few weeks writing about my exploration with Google Glass at the Met and other places. So thanks again.